to answer some questions. I'm going to go ahead and go live on Instagram as well. Oops. All right. Hope that everyone had a great week. I can't believe that it's already April. My birthday is April 14th. Hello. I'm going to be getting foot surgery this Thursday. So I'm getting foot surgery on both of my feet and just doing one at a time because it's going to be really difficult to hobble around with no feet. So I'm kind of nervous about that, but also grateful that we can do it and our insurance covers that surgery. Hello, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to be here for the next 25 minutes answering any questions that you might have. So I was just sharing that I have a foot surgery coming up. My birthday is coming up on the 14th. The spring retreat is coming up May 11 through 16. Super close. I'm really, really excited. Good morning. And if you're interested, I still have 4 spots open. We're going to have Lisa Wiedemann, Dr. Robert Kiltz. We're going to have Rachel, Ribeye Rach, and it's just going to be so much fun. I'm really excited. Someone said, I have bad feet. What surgery are you doing? I have bad feet too. Let me show you what I'm doing. I have really bad bunions. So you see that, like how my big toe sticks out like that? That's a bunion. And after going to a doctor, which Tyler is the one who pushed me to go in an encouraging way because I started complaining about my feet regularly and they're severe. He said, I'm going to do the most invasive surgery, but it's the one where we're not going to have to come back, 3 years later and do another surgery. So he is not only shaving off the extra bone, the growth, he's actually cutting it's like a Z. It's called a long Z. So 3 cuts into my bone and shifting the whole thing. My toe is supposed to be 7 degrees and it's 15 degrees. So my whole foot has shifted. So I'm going to be starting with my left foot, which is the worst, and that'll be this Thursday. I am a little bit nervous because they won't be putting me under. I'm going to be conscious. So I'm kind of like, hey Ben, I'm kind of just wondering, like, should I bring my eye mask so I'm not watching them behind a blanket, or I don't know, but I hope they give me laughing gas or something like that. But this guy has tons of experience. I'm really, really grateful. And I've been talking to him about carnivore. He tells me, well, my cholesterol is bad and my CAC came back negative. And he's like, but I do eat Frosted Flakes with half and half. And I'm like, I mean, don't blame the fat for what the sugar did. So I'm going to bring him a copy of my book, and he's actually considering coming to one of my retreats. We'll see. Thank you so much. Wow. See, I considered just waiting it out and not doing anything about it, but the rate at which I'm complaining about my feet it's like, I better see if insurance covers this. There are just certain movements that really trigger the pain. I can get away with avoiding those, but I don't want to. I want to do box jumps, jump rope, running. All of those things make the pain come back. And so I'm going to move forward with this because I love to be active, and it's definitely holding me back. Thank you for your prayers. I really, truly appreciate that. It's on Thursday. We're going to be going at 5 p.m. And I have to fast all day also, so we get to go to Fogo the day before, and I'll just eat a feast, and I'll fast for about 50 hours, which is no problem. Good morning, Ashley. Hi, guys. So does anyone have any questions for me? I've just been talking about my feet this whole time. Do it. I was a runner and can't do it now. Can't jump rope anymore. You'll be so glad. I was told that I could never run again, mainly because of my my adrenals. I took Adderall for 13 years, high doses of it, and then I would basically take speed for the day, 80 milligrams of Adderall, and then at night I would take clonazepam, which is a benzopidine, and Ambien to knock myself out. So my adrenals really took a big hit, and when I was healing, I had someone that I was a part of my support system who said, you can never run again because it's too much stress. It's too much stress on your body. Thank God he has redeemed and restored me, and I can run. I actually just biked almost 5 miles in the workout this morning. Whew, yep, that was hard. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you so much. Will you post this? Having major problems staying connected. Oh yeah, I will definitely post this after the fact. I'd be interested in hearing how to start fasting, how to know if it's safe, etc. Okay, awesome. So first of all, what is your motive? If you want to get into fasting, what is your motive? Is it to lose weight? Is it to practice detachment? Is it to experience, just to see what fasting feels like? Because people talk about how it can be addictive and you have better focus. It can help heal your gut. So what is your motive? If your motive is to correct some sort of negative eating behavior, don't do it. That's the only situation where I would say you need to focus on healing your relationship with food before you get into fasting. A lot of people will use fasting as a way to mitigate the inflammation from binging, or you can binge on carnivore foods. It can happen. Trust me, I work with people like that. I've done it. I've definitely been in periods where I was overeating, but it's a lot more difficult to do when you're eating just fat and protein. So I won't even go down that road because it's very less common. But my point is, if your relationship with food is toxic or even on the fence, I would wait and stick with something like intermittent fasting, 16-8, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. Don't limit your meals. Don't limit your macros if you're eating carnivore foods. And I would definitely emphasize fat. Now, if you're stable and you're feeling good there, I would start out with a 20-hour fast or a 24-hour fast, almost the same thing, which is just a day. So I would recommend eating around, maybe 1 or 2 p.m. Give yourself time. You don't have to push it all into 1 hour. Give yourself maybe 3 hours. Eat a larger meal, take a 30-minute walk, and then finish your meal. Make sure that you're eating enough. So if you're planning on eating 1 meal a day, which is OMAD, eat enough. And you will have to track your macros. Be sure that you're eating enough protein primarily. And just push it. There's a fasting app. I think it's literally called the fasting app. And it can just give you like little prompts. It can say, you're getting into ketosis right now. Now you're going through autophagy, things like that. Human growth hormone is increased. So I would recommend starting with a 20 or 24-hour fast. And that way there's just not too much pressure, because half of it is sleeping. Like, you could just go to bed early and wake up, and then before you know it, it's time to eat again. After you've done that, I would recommend going 48 hours. There's a big difference between 48 hours and 72 hours. 72 hours, I believe, is when you get the most benefits, and anything beyond 72 hours, honestly, I don't see many benefits. So I would do it like that, and each time be sure that you are eating properly, or what they say is feasting. Make sure that you're feasting before you're fasting. And how to break the fast, also really good question. Okay, so fasting can suppress leptin, which is our satiety hormone. So what happens with some people is they fast too much, and then they end up eating more than they would have eaten if they didn't even fast, because they're literally starving, and their leptin is, they're less leptin sensitive because they've fasted. So plan ahead and break your fast with something like bone broth or a small meal. You could do bone broth, you could do, 4 scrambled eggs, and then wait an hour before you finish. Did I always do that? No. I am not good at that. And to be honest, when I do extended fasts, I break it and have a feast, and I feel fine. But I will say, when I was doing rolling extended fasts as an experiment back before, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, I would break it and eat, all my food in one sitting, and I definitely would feel sluggish. And one, it's because your digestion has been in hibernation mode. Your pancreas has been in hibernation mode. So eating a bolus of protein and food is a lot for your body to take on. I don't really think I did damage to my body, but it was not comfortable. And so now I've learned to take my time when I break my fast. So I would say start with something like bone broth, something that's good for the gut, the enzymes, something warm, wait an hour, and then continue to eat. So just be prepared and be proactive and plan how you're going to do this thing. And then the last thing I'll say about fasting is when you go into it, give yourself permission to break the fast if your body is asking for food. There have been many instances where I set out to do a 48-hour fast. I ate a big feast before, planned everything, and then midway through, I'm like, this isn't just like regular hunger. This is my body saying, I don't want to fast right now. And you can even test your blood sugar, and if you see it going up, that means that you're going through gluconeogenesis and your body is a little bit stressed out. And it's honestly probably better for you to just eat some fat and protein and start again when your body is ready. Especially for women, we have more complex hormones. We have our cycles to work with. So be mindful of your body and don't be super strict with yourself. I don't believe in that. That's just not what God calls us to. He doesn't call us to white knuckle through things. But when you are metabolically flexible and you're healthy and you have healthy body fat on your body, fasting is a challenge, but it shouldn't be like you're white knuckling. So that's a sign that you're also just not ready to be extreme. So I hope that's helpful. Really good question. Speaking of fasting, have any tips? Water with minerals, black coffee, yay or nay? Do you use MCT oil while fasting? I do not use MCT oil. It's just going to break your fast. Anything beyond 50 calories is breaking your fast. MCT oil is very easily oxidized and used for fuel, so it's kind of like a crutch in a way, which is why it was easier for me to become fat adapted when I pulled MCT and coconut oil out of my regular everyday use and switched primarily to animal fat, because it was taking away the crutch and asking my body to burn its own fat. So I don't use MCT oil. Things that I do when I'm fasting: plain electrolytes, not flavored, because that sweet taste will cause a cephalic insulin response. And if you're not eating and you're constantly sipping this sweet tasting thing, that can actually push your blood sugar down because your insulin is elevated. And that can cause hypoglycemia during a fast. It can also cause your body to resist from oxidizing fat when you're fasting because of that cephalic insulin response. So plain electrolytes or just salt in your water, and then I use Aussie trace minerals, and I would highly recommend those when you're fasting as well. Black coffee, kind of dependent on the person. I would not do black coffee during a fast ever, because I don't do caffeine during fasts because it's usually going to raise your cortisol. Caffeine basically asks your body to use adrenaline, and I don't want my cortisol going up, because it'll be more likely that my body will go through gluconeogenesis if I am triggering cortisol and things like that. So I really like to keep myself in a calm and relaxed state when I'm fasting. I do it when I have a lot of errands to run or I'm traveling and I can just relax, and that'll keep my body in fat burning mode. But if I start getting stressed out or my cortisol goes up, I'm going to switch to glucose burning mode, and then I'm going to be catabolic, start tapping into muscle. So you want to be sure that you're fat burning. So keep yourself calm, prioritize your sleep, prioritize your electrolytes, definitely your minerals. Don't do anything over 50 calories, because that will break a fast. And those are the main things that I would say. And you can always do fat fasting and ignore the nothing above 50 calorie rule. Fat fasting is still going to keep your insulin very, very low. And that's another thing that you can do if you're not even comfortable with 16-8. You can eat pure fat outside of your eating window, but you won't be causing an insulin response. And that'll still allow for tons of healing. Okay, I'm going to catch up with YouTube. I tried the butter before bed, but still couldn't sleep. I drink orange juice, about 25 grams of carbs, and that resolves it. I hope to be able to sleep without it in the future. What's your thoughts? My thought is that your body is still relying on glucose, and you have not become fat adapted, and that's why you need the carbs. In addition to that, I am not against you eating 25 grams of carbs before bed. I'm not against you doing that. I think that it would be great for you to make sure that you're eating some protein before those carbs so that your blood sugar isn't going like this. But, carbs can be used in a positive way. But my thoughts are that your body is not comfortable burning its own fat yet, and it can take some time. The butter before bed trick only works if you also cut out the carbs. So it could be that you're having too many carbs during the day, and then you're trying to have butter before bed, and your body is like, I don't care about this. I want carbs because you've been feeding me carbs. So you have to make that signal really clear for your body. But there's no right or wrong. Do what works for you. If 25 grams of carbs helps you to sleep better at night, go for it. I would personally maybe try to use something like strawberries, which is less likely to spike your blood sugar than drinking orange juice. But that's just my personal input. Can you fast if you have thyroid problems and very high cortisol and adrenaline burnout? No. Please don't. Please do not. No. I need to lose weight and to get rid of inflammation. I don't have a problem with binging. Your problem is within your adrenals and your thyroid, and to heal your thyroid, you have to eat enough and you have to convince your body that it's not starving. So I would highly recommend doing something like 16-8, 16 hours of fasting overnight, and then 8 hours of eating. So that's like eat your first meal at 10 a.m. and finish your last meal by 6 p.m. And then outside of that eating window, eat pure fat and stop eating carbs. Just do that consistently, and it will get your body into a supported place. But you've got to focus on your thyroid, your adrenals, everything like that before you get into extended fasting. And I will also say that some people believe that their adrenal issues are so bad that they can't fast at all, so they are literally eating meals in the middle of the night. They get up and have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 2 a.m. That is not helping you. Everyone needs this period where insulin is getting low. Hyperinsulinemia is at the root of literally all disease. If you are not familiar with Benjamin Bickman, he wrote a book called Why We Get Sick, and it's all about insulin. And everyone, I don't care if you are primarily burning glucose, carbs, fat, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs fasting. Fasting is part of just being human. Metabolically flexible is a term that we've created because now it's not natural to be metabolically flexible. Like, our ancestors were metabolically flexible. We ate meat and fat and not all of these genetically modified fruits that are 10 times bigger than they're supposed to be and sweeter. So I would definitely say practice intermittent fasting, but again, allow yourself to eat pure fat outside of that eating window. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then someone asked, what are your thoughts that fasting messes up your hormones? So this is a great, I've kind of been talking about this. If you already have an issue with your thyroid or your adrenals, fasting raises adrenaline and it raises cortisol, which is why I was saying I like to do it when I'm not going to be stressed out. When I'm fasting, I don't go to CrossFit. If I go to a gym, I'm doing accessory movements, maybe some stretching and breathing. I'll definitely go for walks, which is the type of exercise that burns fat, but heavy lifting taps into your glycogen stores, and that is going to cause your body to want glucose. It raises your adrenaline and cortisol, and so I don't want to do that when I'm fasting. So it will exacerbate pre-existing hormonal issues, but if you do it wisely, it can greatly benefit you in many ways, including your hormones. How do you know when you can start fasting to get into autophagy? You can induce autophagy just by eating a low-carb diet. That's one great way to induce it. You can induce autophagy by exercising. So fasting is not the only way to do it. You can take cold showers. You can do sauna. All of these things induce autophagy. Autophagy is cellular turnover. It's literally translates to eat oneself. So it means that your damaged proteins are being replaced. They're being recycled, essentially. So you can induce that without fasting. But how do you know when you can start fasting to induce autophagy? I've basically been talking about that since the beginning of this video. There are a lot of sort of precursors, I would say, and I also have a YouTube video on fasting. But, ask yourself, why do you want to fast? Ask yourself, how's my thyroid? How do I sleep at night? If you're already having issues, if you have pre-existing issues that you're working through, fasting is not the solution. I think a lot of people are fasting to heal themselves, and it's asking too much for your body. We need food. And I was one of those people. That's why I get to say that confidently, because I definitely overdid fasting. I when I had all my gut issues and I was just in pain every time I ate food, even, keto, even carnivore, I fasted once for 5 days and I was already underweight. And I knew that it wasn't right in terms of my hormones and stuff, but I needed relief. I was so sick of reacting every time I ate food. But that is an example of there has to be like, you just have to have discernment on, is this really the right season? Turns out I just needed to remove my baby spinach. Been in ketosis for 1 month, but not really losing weight. I'm tracking calories and should be losing. What's the deal? I would recommend testing your blood sugars and seeing if they're actually within range, and then you can gain weight on a ketogenic diet. You can gain weight on a carnivore diet. So weight loss requires you to be in an energy deficit, not a caloric deficit, an energy deficit. So that means that if you're in ketosis, congratulations, by the way, it will be easier for you to not, you won't have as many cravings. You won't need to eat every 4 hours like we do when we're running on glucose. But you still have to be accountable to energy in. How much are you eating? If you're eating a ton of added fat on everything, those calories actually do add up. And I know calories are sort of a trigger word for a lot of people, but hello, like, they do matter. Hormones matter more. And what a lot of people find is that when they start eating the right foods, your body and your hormones will become healthy and heal, and your metabolism will literally upregulate. So my resting metabolic rate was so much lower, even at a healthy weight in my prior life when I wasn't carnivore. Now that my hormones are really healthy, I've focused on healing, supporting my thyroid. My resting, like my maintenance caloric rate is like 2,200 calories, which is a lot. So I can lose weight way easier than I used to be able to. So my point is, focus on healing. There might be some other things going on with you. I don't really know if you're dealing with thyroid issues, if you're not sleeping at night, but also if you're just testing your ketones, especially your blood ketones after you're eating, and you're eating a ton of butter, you're going to show that you're in ketosis, but you might not be burning much of your own body fat because you're eating so much dietary fat. So become fat adapted. It sounds like you are, and I would recommend pulling back on the added fat and see if that kind of helps you to move the needle. What is the best way to figure out your calories and macros? Awesome question. So there is a good website called salerabbit.com, and you can type in salerabbit calculator, and this will give you all of the different versions of your basal metabolic rate. So they have they have so many different versions, and I like to actually gauge for the lowest one, or you could gauge for the highest one. You can just take a good look at all of them. But you're just going to put in your age, your height, your gender, your energy, and it'll give you your resting metabolic rate. So that's a good place to find out where are your calories around. But I will say, so many of us are metabolically damaged from dieting too much, from too much stress. So you might be burning calories at a lower rate than this thing generates for you, but it's a good way to start. Another way you could do it without any type of technology, in the beginning at least, is to just eat intuitively for about a week and track that. And once you figure out what you're craving and maintaining your weight at, then plug it into something like MyFitnessPal to see, okay, in general, I'm eating around 1,800 calories in general, and I'm not gaining weight. So that's probably around your maintenance calories. In terms of macros, that's right, Ashley, SaleRabbit, just like that. SaleRabbit.com, or you could put SaleRabbit TDEE in Google, and it's like total daily energy expenditure. So that is a website that I like to go to. So you could also just plug in your numbers after you've eaten intuitively and see around what you're eating. So that's a good way to find out, how many calories you maintain at. Now, in terms of your macros, which is the only thing I work with, I don't work with calories, because if you eat the right macro and the right ratios of fat and protein, and you cut out carbs, your calories will just end up being where they need to be. So I like to recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. In general, that's a really good recommendation for most people, unless you're extremely metabolically inflexible and sick, you might do better with a lower protein. But there's a range. So you can do 0.8 times your lean body mass all the way up to 1 gram per pound of desired weight. That's where I like to start. In terms of fat, are you fat adapted? If you are, you can go lower fat if you want to lose weight. In terms of longevity, I think at least 1.5 to 1 grams of fat to protein is a really good place to stay in terms of longevity, especially for women, because we need that fat. Men too, though. Fat and cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. So, there are a lot of like bodybuilders who get into their show prep and their testosterone is tanking because they're not eating enough, especially fat. So I also have a YouTube video on fat to protein ratio and how to gauge that for yourself. Are the small powder packets of bone broth the same as making bone broth, or is it not as good for you? I feel like that's comparing like prime protein to eating a package of actual ground beef. I don't think there's that much of a difference. Or like Billy Doe meats, I eat goat shank and stuff like that, and it has tons of collagen on it. I know that that's better than the powdered collagens, but I also think the powdered collagens are really good. So if that's what you're using and if that's what makes it convenient for you and you're not having reactions, I think it's still awesome. If you can get some homemade stuff every now and then, I think that's also awesome. But remember that a lot of people aren't even doing bone broth. So I think that they're good. I like them. I like, there's also one called Best, I should know this because I'm affiliated. It's called Best Bone Broth or something like that. And it's a bone broth concentrate. It's like a paste. And I really like that stuff. And I think that all the nutrients are just compacted into that paste. And it's easy to travel with. Excuse me. What signs indicate you are fat adapted? Interesting in fasting, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. If you're fat adapted, you won't be craving food around the clock. That's one of the first things people notice is less cravings. Also better focus, more productivity, less mood swings. Honestly, like if I have blood sugar issues, my mood is bad. I get really moody. That's because your blood sugar is going like this instead of like this. And every time your blood sugar goes on a roller coaster, even a mini coaster, it causes some level of inflammation to your body and your brain. And so you will feel that. So a sign of fat adaptation is just honestly more even keeled. A lot of people describe it as just feeling, it's not like a stimulating energy, but more steady energy and more stable and calm. And that's something that stands out greatly to me. My focus and productivity and even anxiety is just so much better when I'm burning fat. So fat adaptation, I would say your cravings are less. You're not craving sugar. That's a number one sign. If you're craving sugar, then your body is still wanting sugar and running on sugar. So you can go longer fasting. Tyler and I go to a therapist every other Thursday, and I don't eat until 1:30 or 2 p.m. And that's how I know if I'm running on glucose or fat, because if I'm getting like hangry, I needed to eat sooner. But if I'm super good, super running on fat, then it's no problem. So that's also a sign. This has been such a good conversation. Thank you, Ashley, for the awesome questions. So this person that was asking about the butter before bed that didn't help, they did say that they were not having carbs during the day. So the next thing that I would ask you is, do you have something really stressful going on in your life? There are definite, stress is almost equal to just eating carbs if it's out of control, because stress asks your body to get into glucose burning mode. That high cortisol shifts you into glucose burning gear. So that could also be holding you back. You could also just not be eating enough. If you're not eating enough protein, your body is going to be keeping you awake at night because you're not getting everything it needs. So also be accountable to just eating enough of the fat and protein. You could also just be oxalate dumping. You could be healing. And some of those things, I mean, healing can actually cause histamine intolerance. And sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater because we're having histamine reactions, and it's actually because you're healing. So there's definitely something going on, but I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you're only eating your carbs at night before bed, I think that's great if it's working for you. You don't have to make yourself zero carb. That's okay. It doesn't sound like you have a binging problem or anything like that. You're doing great. Listen to your body. I don't know how much extra body fat you have on your body, how much you're eating. I would definitely, though, try to eat carbs that are slower acting than orange juice, like strawberries and Greek yogurt. Pair it with some protein, something like that, and I think that would be just beneficial. Is cortisol of 24 at noon too high? That's on the higher range. I can't remember the functional values off the top of my head. That definitely seems higher, for sure. I think that does sound higher. And, I would recommend doing something that helps to support your circadian rhythm. You don't have to go buy some like super expensive supplements or anything like that. It's just kind of getting your cortisol in check. And I will say that, hey, be grateful that you have cortisol. So my healing journey actually started with Addison's disease. Addison's and Hashimoto's were the first two things that I was diagnosed with by a chiropractor. And Addison's is when your body is so stressed out that it stops producing cortisol for your body. So at least you're producing cortisol. I would say maybe start doing some red light therapy or just getting outside and looking at the sun when you wake up and staying away from blue light at night. It's so basic and it works so well, and we don't do it enough, myself included. And then those are the main things I would recommend. And then also be sure you're not eating too close to bedtime, and managing your stress. My dog has Addison's disease, and I'm curious if trying carnivore would help. I mean, I would try it. And even if you don't go all the way, I made a video actually on what we feed our dogs, and I shared the blend because we still give our dogs a Rachel Ray food blend, which is grain-free and free from seed oils, and then we feed them as much meat and egg yolks and sardines as possible. And I think even doing something like that would be so helpful, at least just to see, because your dog still may need some of those carbs. I don't know how similar dogs are to humans, but it might still need some of those carbs. I would just definitely focus on the whole food approach and cutting out any seed oils. Is your body making cortisol now? Yes. Yeah, my Addison's was reversed. Hashimoto's was reversed. I got hypothyroidism again, and that was reversed. I reversed over 10 autoimmune diseases. Yeah, and I have run labs a lot lately. My husband and I had a miscarriage in November, and so I decided to dig deep after that, not just the basic labs, but let's look at more stuff to make sure nothing is going on. And my labs look really good, thank God. I even rechecked for C. diff just to see, because I fought that, and that's almost what took my life. All right, well, that was about 30 minutes, and I know Tyler's upstairs and wants to eat, and he's gonna eat with me, so this was really good. Thank you for all your questions, and I will be back next Monday with probably a foot boot. Thank you for your prayers. I am very nervous. I don't usually get nervous about things, but I'm nervous about this surgery on Thursday. I've been ANA positive my whole life. When I do blood tests, for the first time I am negative after a bit over 1 year carnivore keto. Oh my gosh, girl, that is awesome. It takes time. So Ashley just shared that she's been ANA positive her whole life, and for the first time she's negative after a bit over 1 year carnivore / keto. And I know that her version of keto is clean. She's doing yogurt and berries type of thing. That's amazing. That's so awesome. Congratulations. All right, last question. Just started carnivore, slowly eliminating sugar and carbs, feeling sick after 5 days. You need to be sure that you're getting enough dietary fat and electrolytes. I'm pretty sure you're not getting enough electrolytes if you're feeling nauseous. You could also be oxalate dumping If you started carnivore, that means you're also cutting out oxalate. So if you bump up your electrolytes significantly, make sure you're eating enough dietary fat. If it continues, I would recommend maybe incorporating around 50 grams of oxalate per day, which is not that much. You could do half cup of blackberries. You could do 2 bags of English breakfast tea, something like that. You could do some cumin on your food, and that's going to help with the oxalate dumping process. But I'm probably I'm 98% sure that it's just electrolytes in the transition process. It's You're going to detox, and this is what scares a lot of people away from carnivore or keto. When they stop, I don't know what you were eating before, but the worse you were eating, the worse you'll feel when you transition, because guess what? Your body is letting go of all of that, and you're not going to feel good, but it'll be worth it. So hang in there. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.